Hello and welcome to the More Confidence with Luna Gaia podcast. I am your host, Lunaria Gaia, and here we talk all things body image, self-esteem, your thinking in your mind. How do you connect true to you in every part of who you are? I want you to know that all of you is welcome, so sit back and relax and listen to today's episode. Sending you love. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of More Confidence with Luna Gaia podcast. I am your host, Lunaria Gaia, and thank you for being here. As always, I just know that your time is precious. I know that we all have a lot of pressures going on in our life. There's lots of other things that you could be doing right now, but instead you are listening or you are watching. Maybe I'm on the background. Maybe you're going for a walk. Perhaps you're driving in the car. Whoever's listening in to this now, be that your kids in the car. I love you, I see you, and I so appreciate you being here. So thank you for listening to episode 141. This episode comes to you really fresh off the gate for me because today, as I'm recording this episode, what I am so excited about is I've just reached 1,000 days on Duolingo. If you don't know what Duolingo is, it is a podcast. I'm not a podcast. It is an app. It's also a podcast. I'm not associated with Duolingo at all. This is not a pitch for Duolingo. It's not anything that I'm not associated with them at all. I'm not getting any kickbacks from this, but I'm happy to. Just saying. Duolingo is a language learning app. Effectively, you can get a free version of it, and they want to make language free, easy, and fun to be able to learn. Now, a number of years ago, I decided that I'd been playing piano for a little while, and a dear friend of mine at the time, I was talking to about the fact that I want to learn Spanish and I want to be able to, to learn another language. I was already learning music. And I thought to myself, I really want to be able to do that, but I can't really do them both at the same time. And my friend very aptly turned around and said to me, you know, the best time to learn something is when you're learning something else because your brain is wired for it. You're prepped for it. You're in the mode of learning. And when they said that to me, I kind of thought, you're right, actually, because at what point of me learning piano would I get to a space where I was free enough in my mind to start learning Spanish? So 1,000 days ago, today at time of recording, I started on Duolingo. Now I'm going to be fully transparent. There has been 3 days in that 1,000 days where I have practiced after midnight. So a streak freeze has been put in. So there's been 3 days where I didn't get to it before midnight, effectively, and it came afterwards. So then it kind of like, we made up for the fact that you missed yesterday, which is not entirely true. But in 1,000 days, I showed up every single day. And really, the theme of this podcast today isn't to me to have a brag about 1,000 days of Duolingo, although I think that would also make a very cool episode. But it's not about me, it's about you. Because this key is the number one thing that's going to help you to achieve your dreams. I know that you have something big that you're going for. Or maybe it's just something big for you that the world won't perceive it as big, right? But you have goals, you have dreams, you have things that you want to be able to do in your life. Maybe that you want to show up consistently to yourself. Maybe you want to love yourself. Maybe you want to feel more confident. Maybe you're attempting to put into practice things that you've learned here on the podcast already about changing the way that you talk to yourself in your relationship with yourself. Perhaps you're wanting to get into shape. You're going after your dreams. Maybe you're building a business. Whatever is going on for you, this number one thing I feel so compelled to come on here and talk to you about today. Because without this very thing, all your results go out the window. You can't. It's impossible to succeed without this very thing. You know, back in the day, I remember having all these goals, and the goals were often around losing weight. Let's face it, that's what it was for me back in the day. If you haven't listened to the last episode 140, I speak to you all about my story, my journey of how I went from bulimic to confidence coach, like how I went from hating myself, being in negative self-talk all the time, to actually being able to brightly love myself. And so back in the day, it was all often about weight loss. But from time to time, it was other things. Maybe I wanted to get overseas, or I wanted to have the kind of business that I have today. There's lots of things that I've always wanted in my life. But for a very, very long time, and I'm sure that most of you do this, and we live in this world that perpetuates this, it's the get rich quick thing. Lose 10 kgs fast. I even see it now, and it's often related to weight loss, which breaks my heart for various different reasons. But I see this, someone bragging or someone celebrating the fact that they've lost 20 kilos in the last 12 weeks. And I think to myself, look, good on you for doing that. 12 weeks isn't long enough. It's not long enough. We praise doing things quickly in this day and age. That if you got to become a millionaire by the time you were 30, or that you launched a business and within 12 months you sold it for $2 million, they're the, quote, success stories that we hear. And we hear about these overnight successes of people who have all of a sudden, like Lizzo, just burst into the music scene, and now she's incredible, right? But what very often doesn't get talked about, because it's not very sexy, because it doesn't sell things very well, although I think that it should, is this magical word of consistency. That's really what it boils down to. Lizzo didn't just get a big break because she wanted to become an artist. She became an artist a year before her smash hit single kind of came out. I don't remember which one. I think it was Truth Hurts. A year before Truth Hurts came out, she was living in her car. She was living in her car because she preferred at that point in time to be able to spend all her money on making albums, of recording her music, of getting to gigs. This story I hear again and again and again and again of what society would deem as successful people. Whatever you want to call that. People who've got the results in their life that seem to be superhuman, right? Celebrities, successful people, wealthy people, athletes. And we go, wow, look at what they've done. But we don't think about and we don't process the fact that in order for them to get to where they've gotten to right now, they have shown up consistently for a long ass period of time. A long period of time, my friends. Here's what you got to understand. It doesn't happen overnight. Consistency. To get the dreams that you want in your life, you need consistency. You have to show up. And that doesn't necessarily mean that it's every day, right? And it doesn't mean that you show up for the same amount of time every day. But consistency might mean every second day. It might mean every third day. It might mean once a week. But consistency is, are you showing up and building the skill, building the muscle, building the habit? That very first time that I lost weight, and I did it like everybody else did at the time, I lost 20 kilos in 12 weeks. Probably about that time, right? Can't remember. It was a long time ago now. And people were like, not only amazed that I'd lost the weight, but that I'd done it so fast. And that was the measure of my success at the time, that I'd done it quickly. Yet, even if we take something like weight loss, for example, if you lose weight quickly, it's pretty likely you're going to put it back on. Why? Because you can't maintain it. To lose weight fast, just say you think that you want to lose a kilo a week, which is what I thought that I had to lose, which now is actually extreme. It's an extreme amount of weight loss to have in a week. The amount of deficit that you have to be and the amount of pressure that you have to put on your body is not sustainable. Which is why at the end of those 12 weeks, people go, wow, look at me. I did amazing. I did it in 12 weeks. And very soon they put it back on. Because then they're like, hallelujah, I reached my goal weight. And then they go and eat all the foods that they weren't allowed to eat over the last 12 weeks. Not consistent. Maybe they were consistent for 12 weeks, but 12 weeks is not long enough. As I said, today, 1,000 days of Duolingo. Some of those days were 2 minutes. Some of those days were 45 minutes. But every day I've shown up for that. And as a result of that, my Spanish is okay. I don't get to practice it as much live with people because I live in an English-speaking country. And if I did practice it every day with people, it would accelerate quickly. But only if I show up to it every day. As a result of that 1,000 days of Spanish, when I was in Japan recently, I was standing in line and my mum had gone off to the loo and I heard a conversation happening behind me in Spanish. And I was pretty nervous to start a conversation because what if they found out that my Spanish wasn't all that good? But I took a big deep breath and I said to the gentleman standing beside me, "De donde eres?" And that means, "Where are you from?" So I didn't even say hello, didn't introduce myself. I just said, "Where are you from?" And he starts to tell me in Spanish. And then I asked him to slow down in Spanish. And for the next 10 or 15 minutes, I had a conversation with him and his whole traveling party in Spanish. Now, there were times where I fumbled, I made mistakes, probably misunderstood what they were saying. But as a result of that conversation, I now have a contact in Mexico to which I can go stay for as long as I want to. I built a conversation and my mum stood there with her mouth agape watching me speak in Spanish. Now, 1,000 days ago, I did not think that I could ever get to a point where I would be able to have a full conversation in Spanish with several people. They're asking me questions, I'm asking them questions back, we're having a conversation. Also, 1,000 days ago, I had hoped that it wouldn't have taken me 1,000 days to get there. I honestly thought that within a year, I'd be pretty fluent in Spanish. And now, look, let's break consistency down for a moment. If I showed up and studied Spanish every day for an hour, 2 hours, 8 hours, if that was my full-time job, then yeah, I would be pretty fluent in Spanish within 12 months, right? Maybe I'd be even very good in 12 weeks, right? But how long did it take you to learn English? For those of you who are native English speakers, it took you a long time to get to this level of English, of reading and writing and speaking. And even now, we all have words that we don't know in English. We still have grammatical errors. We still make spelling mistakes. Still, now. And it's your native tongue. I've been speaking English every day of my life for the last 35 years. 35 years. And I still, although I would say that I'm very fluent and articulate in English, that my English is outstanding, there are still parts of English that I don't understand. So can you imagine as we go in to speak another language, or we go in to change our lifestyle, or we go in to change the thoughts that we have had in our mind that have been destructive and negative and painful for us for a long period of time? Can you imagine then what happens when we expect that we're going to change all those things within a week, within a month, even within a year? We grossly overestimate what we can do in a year and underestimate what we can do in 10. Take that in for a second. No matter how old you are right now, whether or not you're 20 having a listen, if you're in the car with your parents and you're 10 right now, or whether or not you're at the pointier end of the stick in your 70s, 80s, or 90s, think 10 years from now. And look, irrelevant of your age, we don't have any guarantees that life is going to continue, that our life won't get snubbed out by something suddenly. It happens all the time. You don't need to be afraid of it, just aware. Fast forward 10 years from now. Imagine if you started today on that dream. Imagine instead of your goals of your health and fitness or your confidence or the business that you're building, instead of those goals being for 1 year, 3 years, imagine if you push it out for 10. Imagine if you said, I'm going to be a great Spanish speaker in 10 years' time. Or I'm going to be in the best health of my life in 10 years' time. And you aimed towards a goal that was further away. And you decided that instead of trying to get there in a rush, you just decided that you were going to show up consistently. There's a Zen proverb that says, before enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. After enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. And effectively what it's saying there is that consistency is the most important thing. That even after you, quote, get there, you're still going to chop wood and carry water. That still, now I went from bulimic to confidence. I stopped hating myself and I now love myself. It doesn't mean that I got to one single point in time and now all of a sudden I don't feel any negativity ever before. or ever again. Or it doesn't mean that I don't ever have to work on my confidence or my relationship with myself. That's crazy. When push comes to shove, what really, really counts is the consistency. You're not going to get to a point where you're like, I never have to work on my confidence again. And no, it doesn't have to be something exhausting. It doesn't have to be really hard. But you will continue to show up, irrelevant of how far you've come in your journey. Because like the saying goes, if you don't use it, you lose it. And they talk about that in terms of muscle mass. As we get older in our lives, we tend to lose mobility. But we lose mobility because we stop moving. We stop using the muscles. There's lots of examples of people in their 70s, 80s, 90s, and beyond who are fit and healthy. And yeah, sure, age is eventually going to catch up with them. But if you keep moving, if you keep exercising, if you keep building the muscle, then you'll be able to use it. And it's the same with everything in our lives. It's not just from a physical perspective. If you keep using your mind, you're still going to be able to access it. If you keep working on your positivity, if you keep working on changing the way that you feel about yourself, if you keep working on your relationship with yourself consistently, then you're going to have a consistent result. That's how it works. You want consistency in your life, then you need to be consistent. And I really want to highlight something for you here. I wholeheartedly believe that consistency is more important than quantity. Way more important than quantity. If you said to yourself, I need to, for example, piano. I've been playing piano for about, I don't know, 4 years or something. I always lose track of how long I've been playing for. I think maybe this is my 5th year. And again, my goal was in 10 years' time, I'm going to be a pretty all right piano player. That was my goal. And still now, 5 years later, my goal is in 10 years' time, I'm going to be a pretty awesome piano player. Same thing. It's still 10 years away. Because I know that that time is going to pass anyway, isn't it? If you forward project your life from 10 years from now, you're still going to be living, hopefully. You're still going to be here. The time is going to pass irrelevant. Instead of you being in a hurry to get there, what if you stretch those goals out? Because what happens then when you look at me and my piano, if you decided that you needed to play the piano and you had to play for an hour a day, how does that feel within your being right now that you have to find an hour every day to play piano, to exercise, to learn a language, to work on your business? If you had to find an hour every day, knowing how busy you are right now, how does that feel? I think for a lot of you, you're like, oh my God, an hour? It's a long time. Even though we probably spend an hour scrolling or an hour reading or an hour watching TV, that's our downtime, right? We need that. If we have to then find an hour every single day, that's a lot, right? And now, sure, if you were able to have that hour every day, your results would happen faster, right? There's no doubt about it, providing that you can stay consistent. But just say you miss a day. You miss a day and you don't have that hour practice, you then maybe feel guilty about it. So then you think, okay, well, I'll have to do 2 hours tomorrow to make it up. Now, all of a sudden, you're in a trap. Slippery slope. Because now you feel like you're having to make up for yesterday. Just say you missed twice this week or 3 times this week. Oh my God, I've lost 3 hours. And now all of a sudden showing up to the piano, showing up to the thing that you want to do becomes overwhelming, becomes too hard. There's too many barriers to the success. So you don't, you stop, you give up. The secret to consistency here is make it easy. Make it doable. If you come back to the weight loss analogy, and I'm going to come into the piano analogy in a moment, if you go to that kind of weight loss analogy, what most people will do is cut their calories by a massive amount. Huge. Like they'll take off 30, 40, 50% of what they should be eating. Like they go, you have to go on 1,200 calories or 1,500 calories. You will be hungry all the freaking time. And quote, staying on the diet is going to be nearly impossible to do, which is why people break their diets, because they're trying to get it quick. Whereas if you made in your food 10% change, if you made a 10% change in your food, made your portion a little bit smaller, you wouldn't notice it so much. You wouldn't notice that you were eating less. You wouldn't feel deprived. It might take longer, but your results would be consistent over a long period of time. You make it doable. You make it achievable. Let's go back to the piano for a moment. If that hour practice, just say you go, okay, well, I'm just going to do an hour practice once a week. That seems doable, right? It's an hour. Again, it doesn't feel like a very long period of time, but we live in a very, very busy world. Our lives are busy and we get tired. If you showed up to your piano for 70 minutes a week, once a week, you would progress, right? Because every week you showed up, it's consistent, right? But on the other hand, if you showed up to your, whatever it is, piano for this example, every day for just 10 minutes, you would be practicing the same amount in a week, much more digestible chunks, and you don't have to remember what you did a week ago because you just did it yesterday. This is the secret to consistency. Make it small, make it achievable, make it something that you can feel proud of. When I have a 1,000-day streak on Duolingo, I'm very comfortable in the knowledge that I showed up to it every day, even if on the very minimum it was 5 minutes. Because I know I showed up. And that's the part that becomes really amazing. That's the part that makes it really, really powerful, because I have consistently shown up. I'm remembering what I did yesterday, not a week ago. And so that 70 minutes from a piano perspective now becomes 10 minutes. I did it just yesterday. And this is literally how I started to play piano. I've also played piano for 5 years, practically every day. The difference is when I'm away from a piano. I can't play piano when I'm not near my piano or a piano. I did happen to find 3 pianos while I was in Japan, one at the airport to which I played, one at a restaurant to which I played and serenaded the other diners while waiting for my meal, and then at a farm stay on an island in the middle of Hiroshima Bay, there happened to be a bloody digital piano, and I got to play for 2 days in a row. Amazing. But I play piano every day, and my minimum requirement is, guess what? 10 minutes. So on the days when I'm tired, the days where I couldn't be bothered, I show up, I set the timer for 10 minutes. All I do. If I'm super sick, realistically, if I'm just going to go straight to bed, I'm not going to be a commando on me. I'm not going to be a dictator and be like, you have to, you are dying, but get on the piano. But for the most part, if I have time to scroll, if I have time to read, if I have time and energy to watch a movie or a TV show, I have time and energy for piano. And I set it for 10 minutes a day. And most days, my friends, I play piano for about half an hour. Sometimes 45 minutes, sometimes an hour. Rarely I play it for 10 minutes, but my minimum requirement is 10 minutes. Now, if you set those kind of goals for yourself, if you consistently showed up, even you look at exercise, maybe you're thinking to yourself, I really need to get in shape and I need to exercise more. Rather than thinking to yourself, I need to exercise for an hour a day, 5 days a week, the task feels really big. Just start with 10 minutes. I'm hearing some of your voices in your head. You're like, yeah, but it's not enough. Isn't 10 minutes done every day better than not at all? Better than beating yourself up for not doing the 5 hours that you were meant to do? Start small. Make it achievable for yourself. Then you can feel proud of yourself. Every day I built a habit of going out and going for a walk. And it's pretty likely that 10 minutes is soon going to turn into 20 or 30. As your fitness builds, as your strength builds, as you realize how much endorphins and serotonin you get from it, you're likely to go more. But what's important here is to understand that it's the consistency of showing up that builds the habit of success. Success is a habit, my friends. Success is a habit. You show up consistently for your dreams, your desires, your goals, and what you're going after. And you will succeed because it's habitual. People who don't get results in their lives are the ones who are expecting it fast. They're the ones who think that they're going to get it right now. But if you really want to go after what you really do want in your life, be consistent, show up, and make success a habit. I'm wondering, let me know, maybe send me a voice message on 61 +61 403 981 597. Give us a voice message on the WhatsApp. Shoot me through an email, loveyourself@moreconfidence.com.au. Or just let me know in the comments below if you're watching on YouTube, or I'll put something in the poll on Spotify. What could you do for just 10 minutes a day that would make a huge difference over the next 12 months, 3 years, 10 years of your life? If you set a goal in mind for 10 minutes a day, what could you achieve? Think about it for yourself right now. I know that there is a saying that says mastery of anything takes 10,000 hours. 10,000 hours seems like a lot, and it is. If I play piano for 10 minutes a day, I've done the maths, every day, it'll take me, I think I did the maths, and it takes me about 50 years. It takes me about 50 years to get 10,000 hours, right? Now, I'm just about to hit 40. I still might have 50 years in me. Maybe you don't. But you know what? Even if it takes me 25 years and I get a half level of mastery, in 25 years' time, I'm going to be a pretty damn good piano player, don't you think? Even at 10 minutes a day, I'm going to be a great piano player in 25 years. So I'm 65, still a spring chicken cruising around. In 45 years, I'm 85. If in 40 years, I'm 80, hopefully I'm healthy. Maybe I'm the best damn piano player in the nursing home. It's 40 years away. If you show up consistency to everything that you want in your life, you will get it. Learn, adapt, learn again, test, measure, adapt, learn again, fail, rinse and repeat. Move forward in the direction of your dreams, my loves. Extend out your timelines rather than trying to get it done everything now. Extend your timeline out for success and watch what happens. I love you so much. Thank you for being here for episode 141. If you have found this useful, why not share it with someone? And hit the follow button, the subscribe button, the thing that you're meant to do when, you listen to a podcast, download, whatever that happens to be. But share it with someone who needs to hear this message. And if you haven't already, by the way, have you joined Magnetic Confidence Community on Facebook? There's a beautiful community of women coming together to really be inspired by one another. I'm there regularly. I'm hanging out. I'm offering free content. I often run free challenges there as well. So if you haven't already, I'm going to leave the link for that group in the show notes for you to go hang out there. It's a pleasure to have you. Share this, press the follow button, join the More Confidence community, the Magnetic Confidence community, for a more confident you. Sending you big love, and until next time, my loves, happy self-loving. See ya.
Thank you so much for listening to the More Confidence with Luna Guy podcast. I hope you feel more confident, more self-assured, and ready to go tackle the world's problems and maybe kick ass in some of your dreams. If you haven't already, I would love for you to like and subscribe, follow, and maybe leave a review so that other people know how to find this awesome podcast too. If you're wanting to sink your teeth into something even more juicy, my #1 best-selling book, Perfectly Imperfect, Your Complete Guide to Loving Yourself and Loving Your Body, is now available on all good bookstore sites, both in print, digital, and I narrated it for Audible as well. If you think that coaching or maybe one of my courses is for you, why not head to www.moreconfidence.com.au and get in touch and see if we can talk. And of course, you can find me all across the social medias. That's Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, YouTube, which is where you're probably listening now, or maybe even here on the podcast platform. Sending you big love and wishing you a beautiful day.